Who are you? Leave my husband.
Not husband.
Stop telling shit. Emma is my husband.
For 20 years, Marcus Chin lived behind invisible walls. No handshakes at board meetings. No casual pats on the shoulder. No embrace from anyone, not even family. The tech CEO who revolutionized Silicon Valley was completely untouchable. Until one rainy night, when a young data analyst named Emma Brooks accidentally reached for his hand during a system crash emergency. That single moment shattered 2 decades of isolation. But the path to that moment, and what came after, would change both their lives forever. Don't forget to watch the video full of story so that you can understand and acquire more knowledge. Don't forget to share it to 10,000 people, and tell me in the comment where you watch from, which party of country like this video, and subscribe for the next chapter. Drop a comment telling us what you think will happen when they first meet. Next video drops soon. Don't miss it. In the gleaming towers of downtown Seattle, everyone knew the name Marcus Chin. At 35, he'd built TechVista into a billion-dollar empire, pioneering artificial intelligence solutions that transformed industries worldwide. Business magazines called him a genius. Competitors called him ruthless. But employees whispered something else entirely. He's the CEO you can never touch. It wasn't just a quirk or preference. Marcus Chin had an actual rule, documented in every employee handbook, posted in HR guidelines, enforced by his executive assistant. No physical contact. Ever. Conference rooms were arranged so Marcus sat at the head, 3 feet from the nearest person. His corner office had furniture specifically positioned to maintain distance. When signing contracts, he used electronic signatures. When awards required handshakes, he politely declined and no one questioned it. Not anymore. The tech world had learned to accommodate Marcus Chin's boundaries. They assumed it was eccentric billionaire behavior. They didn't know the truth. They couldn't see the 7-year-old boy still trapped inside a brilliant man's body. Marcus hadn't always been this way. Old family photos, hidden deep in storage, showed a different child, one who climbed into laps for story time, who ran barefoot through gardens, who hugged everyone freely. But that child disappeared the year his mother passed away from cancer. His father, devastated and lost, remarried quickly. Victoria seemed perfect at first. Elegant, composed, sophisticated. In public, she played the devoted stepmother. Behind closed doors, she became something else entirely. Victoria resented Marcus from the beginning. She hated his questions, his laughter, his very existence. But most of all, she hated that his father's love for his son remained unshakable. So she created rules. Rules that applied only to Marcus. No entering the main living areas when guests visited. No playing with toys in common spaces. No making noise after 6 p.m. And most importantly, never ever touch her. Marcus was just a child. Sometimes he forgot. And when he forgot, Victoria made sure he remembered. The breaking point came during a fierce thunderstorm when Marcus was 7. He'd accidentally knocked over a glass of water at dinner. Victoria's rage was immediate. She dragged him to the basement storage room, shoved him inside, and locked the door. "Don't you dare touch anything of mine again," she hissed through the wood. Lightning illuminated the small, windowless space through cracks. Thunder shook the foundation. Marcus cried until his voice gave out, pounding on the door until his small fists were bruised. His father was traveling for business. He always was. Hours passed. Marcus eventually curled into a corner, shaking uncontrollably, his mind fragmenting under the weight of terror and abandonment. When his father returned the next morning and discovered what had happened, he divorced Victoria immediately. But the damage had taken root too deeply. After that night, Marcus couldn't bear anyone touching him. Even gentle hands triggered panic attacks. His chest would tighten, his vision would blur, his heart would race until he thought it might stop. Therapists tried every approach. Medications, exposure therapy, cognitive behavioral techniques. Nothing worked. Marcus learned to adapt. He built walls, emotional and physical. He excelled in school, focusing on computers and technology where human contact wasn't required. He discovered he could communicate through screens, lead through emails, build empires without ever shaking a single hand. By his 20s, Marcus had transformed his trauma into an empire. TechVista grew rapidly, and his no-touch policy became accepted as just another eccentricity of a tech genius. His staff learned to work around it. Business partners adapted. The media found it intriguing. But inside, Marcus remained that terrified 7-year-old boy locked in the dark, waiting for someone to open the door. His Seattle penthouse was immaculate but empty. His office was powerful but cold. He had everything money could buy: private jets, luxury cars, properties worldwide, but he'd never experienced simple human warmth. No comforting hugs. No friendly embraces. No intimacy of any kind. Marcus told himself he didn't need it. He'd survived this long. He could continue indefinitely. What he didn't know was that everything was about to change. Because 3,000 miles away, a young woman named Emma Brooks was packing her bags, preparing to move to Seattle for a new job at TechVista. And neither of them knew that her arrival would shatter the carefully constructed walls Marcus had spent 20 years building. Emma Brooks had never imagined she'd end up in Seattle. Growing up in a small town in Ohio, working in the family diner, scraping together community college tuition. None of it pointed toward a career at one of the world's most innovative tech companies. But Emma had a gift. While other students struggled with statistics and data analysis, Emma saw patterns everywhere. Numbers spoke to her in ways they didn't to others. She could look at spreadsheets and identify trends that even seasoned analysts missed. Her breakthrough came during her senior year at Ohio State when she developed an algorithm that predicted consumer behavior with unprecedented accuracy. A professor submitted her work to a national competition. TechVista's recruitment team noticed. The job offer arrived via email at 2 a.m. Emma was working the night shift at a grocery store to help her parents with medical bills. Her father's diabetes medication costs had skyrocketed. She read the offer 3 times, certain she'd misunderstood the salary figure. When she called her mother the next morning, crying, her mom said, "Baby, you've earned this. Go make us proud." Now, 2 weeks later, Emma stood in TechVista's lobby, overwhelmed. The building was stunning, all glass and steel, with digital art installations and a reception area larger than her family's entire house. Emma Brooks. A crisp voice interrupted her thoughts. Emma turned to find a woman in her 50s, impeccably dressed, holding a tablet. "I'm Margaret Sullivan, Mr. Chen's executive assistant. Welcome to TechVista." "Thank you so much, Ms. Sullivan. I'm excited to." "We need to review some protocols before you start," Margaret interrupted, gesturing toward a conference room. Her tone wasn't unkind, but it was firm. Inside, Margaret pulled up a presentation on the screen. "You've been hired as a junior data analyst, but you'll occasionally interact with executive leadership. There are specific guidelines you must follow, particularly regarding Mr. Chen." Emma nodded, taking notes. "First and most important, Mr. Chen has a strict no-contact policy. No handshakes, no physical touch of any kind. Maintain at least 3 feet of distance at all times." Emma's pen paused. "A no-contact policy?" "Correct. It's non-negotiable. Violation results in immediate termination." "I understand, but why?" Margaret's expression softened slightly. "That's not information we share. Just know that Mr. Chen's boundaries must be respected absolutely. Are we clear?" "Yes, ma'am. Completely clear." The presentation continued. "Don't make direct eye contact for extended periods. Don't enter his office unless specifically summoned. Don't speak unless spoken to in meetings." The list felt medieval, but Emma needed this job desperately. Her starting salary was more than her parents had earned combined in the last 3 years. She could pay off their debts, cover her father's medications, help her younger brother with college. She'd follow whatever rules necessary. Emma's first 2 weeks passed in a blur. The data analytics department was intense but exhilarating. She worked on projects analyzing user behavior patterns, market trends, and system efficiency. Her supervisor, David, was impressed. "You're good at this, Brooks," he said during a team meeting. "Really good. Keep this up, and you'll advance quickly." Emma threw herself into the work, often staying late. The Tech Vista building was beautiful at night, the Seattle skyline glittering through floor-to-ceiling windows, the offices quiet except for the hum of servers. She hadn't seen Marcus Chen yet. He worked on the executive floor, rarely descending to where junior analysts toiled. But everyone talked about him constantly. "He arrived at 5 a.m. this morning," someone would whisper. "He rejected the Horizon merger proposal in under 3 minutes," another would marvel. "I heard he once fired someone for accidentally brushing against his shoulder," a particularly gossipy colleague claimed. Emma found the obsession strange. Yes, he was the CEO. Yes, he was brilliant. But he was also just a person. Wasn't he? Her perspective changed during her 3rd week when a company-wide meeting was called. All employees assembled in the main auditorium. Emma sat near the back, notebook ready. When Marcus Chen walked onto the stage, the room fell absolutely silent. He was younger than Emma expected, mid-30s, tall, with sharp features and tired eyes. He wore a perfectly tailored charcoal suit and moved with careful precision. There was something in his posture, a guardedness, a constant vigilance, that made Emma's heart clench unexpectedly. Marcus spoke about TechVista's quarterly results, upcoming projects, and innovation goals. His voice was calm, measured, intelligent. But Emma noticed something others might have missed. He gripped the podium tightly, knuckles white. He stood in one spot, never moving closer to the audience. His eyes scanned the room but never truly focused on anyone. He wasn't just maintaining distance. He was protecting himself. Emma recognized that look. She'd seen it before in her father's eyes after particularly bad days, when pain and fear overwhelmed everything else. Marcus Chen wasn't eccentric or arrogant. He was terrified. The crisis hit on a Thursday night at 9:47 p.m. Emma was one of only 5 people still in the building, finishing a data model for the next morning's presentation. Her desk was littered with coffee cups and snack wrappers, hallmarks of overtime dedication. Suddenly, every screen in the building flickered, then went black. Emergency lights kicked on, bathing everything in eerie red. Emma's computer died mid-calculation. Around the floor, backup generators hummed to life, but the main systems remained dark. Her phone buzzed. Critical system failure. All available personnel report to server room immediately. Emma grabbed her access badge and ran toward the elevators. Dead. She took the stairs instead, climbing 5 flights to the infrastructure level where the server rooms housed TechVista's core systems. When she burst through the door, she found chaos. Technicians were shouting, pulling cables, typing frantically on laptops connected to auxiliary power. Screens displayed cascading error messages in red. "We're losing everything," someone yelled. "The backup systems aren't responding." "Where's Chen?" another voice called out. "On his way down." Emma's supervisor, David, spotted her. "Brooks. Thank God. We need every analyst running damage assessment. Get on Terminal 7. Emma didn't hesitate. She dropped into a chair, fingers flying across the keyboard. The system architecture was collapsing, corrupted files spreading like wildfire through the network. If they didn't contain it soon, months of work and client data would be destroyed. "It's a cascade failure," Emma muttered, analyzing the patterns. The corruption started in Sector J4, but it's jumping protocols. It's almost like... Her eyes widened. It's intelligent. Someone designed this to specifically target our backup systems. A cyber attack. David leaned over her shoulder. "Are you sure? Look at the propagation pattern. It's not random, it's methodical." The door slammed open. Marcus Chen strode in, still wearing his suit but with his tie loosened. Every head turned. "Status report," he commanded, moving to the main monitoring station. Emma noticed immediately that people physically shifted away from him, creating a bubble of space. Even in crisis, they maintained his boundaries. "Cascade failure, sir," the head technician reported. "We're at 67% system corruption and climbing. Emma Brooks from Analytics thinks it might be an attack." Marcus's eyes found Emma across the room. Their gazes locked for a moment, his sharp and assessing, hers determined and slightly nervous. "Explain," he said. Emma stood, keeping her distance instinctively. "The corruption pattern is too organized. It's targeting backup protocols specifically, like someone mapped our architecture and designed malware to exploit weaknesses. If we don't isolate the source in the next 15 minutes, we'll lose everything." Marcus studied the screens, his mind clearly processing at incredible speed. "Can you trace the origin point?" "I can try, but I'd need administrative access to deeper system logs." Without hesitation, Marcus turned to his assistant Margaret, who'd arrived moments after him. "Give her level 5 clearance. Now." Margaret's eyes widened. Level 5 was executive access, virtually unrestricted. But she didn't argue. Within seconds, Emma's terminal lit up with new permissions. Emma's fingers became a blur. Code cascaded down her screen as she traced the attack backward through layers of system architecture. Marcus moved closer to observe, though he maintained careful distance. "There," Emma breathed. "The breach originated from an external IP address, but it's routing through our own employee VPN credentials. Someone on the inside helped plant this." "Can you stop it?" Marcus asked, his voice tight. "Not stop, but I can redirect it. If I create a dummy partition and make the malware think it's still spreading while actually isolating it." She was already typing, implementing the solution as she spoke. The room held its collective breath. Error messages slowed, then stopped. System status displays gradually shifted from red to yellow to green. "It's working," David whispered. Emma executed the final command. "I've quarantined the corrupted sectors. We'll need to rebuild those databases, but everything else is intact." The attacks contained. The room erupted in relieved chatter. Several people applauded. Marcus stood perfectly still, staring at the restored systems. Then he turned to Emma. "You saved the company potentially millions in losses. And probably a dozen client contracts." Emma felt her cheeks flush. "I just saw the pattern, sir. Anyone could have." "No," Marcus interrupted. "They couldn't. That was exceptional work." He extended his hand automatically, a gesture of thanks and respect, then froze mid-motion, realizing what he'd done. Emma saw the panic flash across his face. His hand trembled slightly before he slowly, deliberately pulled it back. The moment lasted only seconds, but it felt eternal. "I apologize," Marcus said stiffly. "Old habit." "No need to apologize, sir," Emma replied gently. "I understand about boundaries." Something shifted in Marcus's expression. Surprise, perhaps. Or relief that she wasn't offended or confused. "Good work, Ms. Brooks," he said quietly, then turned and left the server room, Margaret following quickly behind. Emma stood there, her heart pounding, not from the crisis, but from that brief moment when she'd seen something vulnerable in Marcus Chen's eyes. The server room crisis made Emma somewhat famous overnight. By Monday morning, she'd been moved from her cubicle to an actual office. Small, but with a door and a window. Her supervisor David congratulated her with a grin and a significant raise. "Mr. Chan himself requested you be promoted to senior data analyst," David explained. "He also wants you on the security task force investigating the breach." Emma's heart skipped. Working directly on Marcus Chen's radar felt both thrilling and terrifying. The security task force met twice weekly in a conference room on the executive floor. Emma had never been up there before. Everything was quieter, more refined. The carpet was thicker, the art more expensive, the coffee definitely better. Marcus attended every meeting, sitting at the head of the table with his usual 3-foot buffer. Emma sat midway down, taking careful notes and contributing when appropriate. She noticed things others didn't. How Marcus's jaw tightened when people spoke too loudly. How his fingers drummed rhythmically against the table when he was thinking deeply. How he'd sometimes close his eyes briefly during stressful discussions, as if steadying himself. During their third meeting, they identified the insider threat, a disgruntled former employee who'd kept VPN access. Marcus's expression remained neutral, but Emma saw relief flicker across his features. "Excellent work, everyone," Marcus said when the meeting concluded. "Ms. Brooks, could you remain for a moment?" Emma's stomach flipped. Others filed out, and suddenly she was alone in the conference room with Marcus Chin. Well, not entirely alone. Margaret stood by the door, ever present. Marcus stood by the windows overlooking Seattle. He didn't turn around immediately. "I wanted to thank you properly for your quick thinking during the crisis," he said. "You potentially saved this company." "I was just doing my job, sir." "No," Marcus turned finally. "You did significantly more. Your ability to recognize patterns others miss, that's not common. It's valuable." Emma felt warmth spread through her chest. "Thank you, Mr. Chen. I'm curious about something." Marcus tilted his head slightly. "That night in the server room, when I offered my hand instinctively, you didn't react the way most people do." Emma chose her words carefully. "You mean I didn't ask why you pulled back or make you feel uncomfortable about your boundaries?" "Exactly. My father has severe neuropathy from diabetes," Emma explained. "Sometimes touch is extremely painful for him, even gentle contact feels like burning. I grew up understanding that boundaries around touch aren't always about being cold or distant. Sometimes they're about survival." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. "That's an unusually compassionate perspective. It's just understanding that everyone has reasons for their boundaries, sir." Something in Marcus's carefully constructed walls seemed to crack, just slightly. "You may call me Marcus when we're in smaller meetings. The constant, sir, is unnecessary." Emma's eyes widened. By all accounts, Marcus Chen never allowed informal address. "Are you sure?" "I am." Over the following weeks, something unexpected developed. Marcus began requesting Emma's analysis on various projects, often directly rather than through her supervisor. She'd receive emails late at night, questions about data patterns, requests for projections, sometimes just observations about system inefficiencies. Emma always responded thoughtfully, never pushing, never overstepping. She maintained the physical distance he required while building something else, intellectual connection. One evening, Emma was working late again, a habit she'd developed, when Marcus emerged from his office. She was in the small break room on the executive floor, making coffee. "Ms. Brooks," he said from the doorway. "Still here." "Just finishing the quarterly analysis for tomorrow's board meeting," Emma replied, careful to stay on her side of the room. "Would you like coffee?" "I just made a fresh pot." Marcus hesitated. The break room was small. Accepting would mean sharing closer quarters than usual. "That would be acceptable," he finally said. Emma poured 2 cups, then placed his on the counter and stepped back. Marcus entered carefully, maintaining distance, and retrieved the cup. They stood on opposite sides of the break room, drinking coffee in comfortable silence. Emma gazed out the window at the Seattle skyline. "It's beautiful at night," she murmured. "I rarely notice any more," Marcus admitted. "That's sad. Beauty is important, even when we're busy." Marcus studied her curiously. "You have an unusual way of looking at things. My mom always said that when life is hard, you have to notice the beautiful moments. Otherwise, what's the point?" "Your mother sounds wise." "She is." Emma smiled. "She works 3 jobs to keep our family afloat, but she still finds time to notice sunsets and laugh at bad jokes. Marcus's expression shifted. Not quite sadness, but something close. You're fortunate to have that kind of family. I am, Emma agreed. Then carefully, did you have that once? The question was gentle, not prying. Marcus could have shut her down. Instead, he answered. Once. A long time ago. The vulnerability in those 5 words struck Emma deeply. She wanted to cross the room, to offer comfort, but she understood that would be the worst thing she could do. Instead, she said simply, I'm sorry you lost it. Marcus met her eyes. Thank you. They finished their coffee in understanding silence, and when Marcus returned to his office, Emma noticed his shoulders seemed slightly less tense. Marcus Chen had a fiancée. Emma discovered this fact during her second month at TechVista when a stunning woman in designer heels swept into the executive floor like she owned it. Where is he? The woman demanded at Margaret's desk. Ms. Winters, Mr. Chen is in a meeting. I don't care. Tell him Vivian is here. Emma watched from her office as Margaret reluctantly knocked on Marcus's door. Moments later, the woman, Vivian, entered without waiting for permission. Who's that? Emma asked David later. Vivian Winters. Fashion industry royalty. She and Marcus have been engaged for 2 years. David lowered his voice. Personally, I don't think they're right for each other, but what do I know? Emma felt an unexpected twist in her stomach. Of course Marcus was engaged. Brilliant, wealthy, handsome. Why wouldn't he be? She threw herself back into work, trying not to wonder about Marcus's personal life. Vivian became a regular presence. She'd arrive unannounced, treating the executive floor like a personal runway. Emma noticed that Marcus never seemed particularly happy to see her. His jaw would tighten, his responses would become clipped. One afternoon, Emma was delivering a report to Marcus's office when she overheard raised voices inside. I don't understand why you won't let me announce our engagement publicly. Vivian's voice was sharp. Do you know how embarrassing it is when people ask why we never appear together? We've discussed this, Vivian. Marcus's voice was tired. I don't like publicity. You mean you don't like being seen with me? That's not what I said. Then what? Why won't you hold my hand in public? Why don't you touch me? Ever. I'm your fiancé, Marcus, not some business associate. Silence followed. Emma knew she should leave, but her feet wouldn't move. Vivian, you knew about my boundaries when we agreed to this arrangement. Arrangement. Vivian laughed bitterly. Is that what you call our relationship? An arrangement. Emma finally forced herself to walk away, her heart heavy. An arrangement. That's what Marcus had called it. Not love, not partnership. An arrangement. Later that week, Emma was working late again when Marcus appeared in her office doorway. He looked exhausted. Ms. Brooks, do you have a moment? Of course. Emma gestured to the chair across from her desk, though she knew he wouldn't sit. He remained standing, maintaining distance. I wanted to discuss the consumer behavior analysis you submitted. Your projections for Q3 are concerning. They talked through the data, but Emma sensed Marcus had come for more than business discussion. There was something restless in his posture, something troubled in his expression. Is everything all right? Emma finally asked. You seem stressed. Marcus's mask slipped slightly. Is it that obvious? Only to someone paying attention. He was quiet for a moment. May I ask you something personal? Emma's heart rate picked up. Sure. How do you manage expectations from people who care about you but don't understand your limitations? Emma considered carefully. Is this about your fiancé? Marcus didn't confirm or deny, but his silence was answer enough. My father, Emma began slowly, sometimes feels guilty that he can't do things he used to do. Can't hug us the way he wants, can't work, can't be the provider he thinks he should be. My mother told him once, I didn't fall in love with what you could do. I fell in love with who you are. That distinction matters. Marcus absorbed this. And if someone only cares about what you can provide, the status, the lifestyle, the appearance of success, then they don't love you. They love the idea of you. The words hung in the air. Marcus's expression was carefully neutral, but Emma saw pain flicker behind his eyes. Thank you for your honesty, Ms. Brooks. Emma, she said impulsively. You call me Ms. Brooks, but we've worked closely for weeks now. I'd prefer Emma. Marcus's lips curved slightly, almost a smile. Emma, then. Hearing her name in his voice felt oddly intimate. The next day, everything changed. Vivian arrived at the office with a photographer and journalist in tow. Surprise, she announced, bursting into Marcus's office where he, Emma, and 2 other executives were meeting. Seattle Magazine is doing a feature on power couples, and we're going to be on the cover. Marcus stood slowly. Vivian, we discussed this. I said no to the interview. I know, darling, but I thought if they were already here, you'd reconsider. She moved toward him, and everyone in the room tensed. Marcus backed up subtly. No. I want them to leave. Marcus, don't be difficult. I said no. His voice was firm but controlled. Margaret, please escort these people out. Vivian's face flushed with anger and embarrassment. You're humiliating me. You're humiliating yourself by not respecting boundaries I've clearly established. The journalist and photographer were quickly ushered out. Vivian stood frozen, trembling with rage. This is about her, isn't it? Vivian's eyes landed on Emma, the little analyst who suddenly has access to you. Emma's breath caught. This meeting is over, Marcus said coldly. Everyone out. Emma gathered her materials and left quickly, but she caught Vivian's venomous glare as she passed. She'd just made an enemy. Vivian Winters was not accustomed to rejection or competition. From childhood, she'd been groomed for a life of luxury and influence. Beautiful, connected, and calculating, she viewed Marcus Chen as the ultimate prize, a brilliant billionaire who could elevate her status to unprecedented heights. The engagement had been strategic, arranged by their families who saw mutual benefit. Marcus provided wealth and prestige. Vivian provided social polish and connections. Neither had pretended it was about love. But Vivian had assumed she'd be the most important woman in Marcus's life. Now, inexplicably, a nobody data analyst from Ohio was threatening everything. She'd seen how Marcus looked at Emma, not with desire exactly, but with something worse. Trust. Comfort. The kind of ease he'd never shown with Vivian. Unacceptable, Vivian whispered to herself in her penthouse suite. She scrolled through her phone, pausing on photos of her and Marcus at charity galas. In every image, there was visible distance between them. They never touched. Never looked particularly happy. Then she pulled up TechVista's employee directory and found Emma Brooks's profile. Plain. Average. Nothing special. Yet somehow, she'd gotten closer to Marcus than anyone in years. Vivian smiled slowly. She knew exactly how to eliminate this threat. The following Monday, Vivian arrived at TechVista with purpose. She dressed impeccably, a cream Chanel suit, Louboutin heels, her trademark diamond earrings. She looked like everything Emma wasn't. She found Emma in her small office, buried in spreadsheets. Emma Brooks. Vivian's voice was honey-sweet. Emma looked up, surprised. Ms. Winters. How can I help you? May I come in? Without waiting for answer, Vivian entered and closed the door. I wanted to apologize for the other day. The magazine situation was poorly handled. Oh, that's all right. It wasn't. I also wanted to thank you, Vivian continued, sitting elegantly in the guest chair. Marcus told me how you saved the company during the cyber attack. That was impressive. Emma felt uneasy but couldn't pinpoint why. I was just doing my job. Still, Marcus doesn't praise people lightly. He must think highly of you. Vivian's smile didn't reach her eyes. That's actually why I'm here. I need advice about Marcus. Woman to woman. I'm not sure I'm the right person. Please. You work with him closely. You've clearly found a way to make him comfortable. I'm his fiancée, and I still feel like a stranger. Vivian's voice cracked convincingly. I love him, Emma. I just want to understand how to reach him. Emma's kind heart softened despite her instincts. Have you asked him about what happened? About why touch is difficult for him? He won't talk to me about it. Vivian dabbed her eyes delicately. But he talks to you, doesn't he? Not really. We mostly discuss work. But you're close. I can see it. Vivian leaned forward. Please, Emma. If you care about Marcus's happiness, help me understand him. What's his story? Emma felt trapped. Sharing Marcus's trauma felt like betrayal, but Vivian was his fiancée. Didn't she deserve to understand? I don't know details, Emma said carefully. But I think something happened when he was young. Something that made him afraid of touch. It's not about you, Ms. Winters. It's about survival. Something when he was young. Vivian processed this. Do you know what? No. And I wouldn't share if I did. That's his story to tell. Vivian stood gracefully. Of course. Thank you, Emma. You've been more helpful than you know. After Vivian left, Emma felt sick. She'd said almost nothing, but somehow it felt like she'd betrayed a confidence. Over the next 2 weeks, Vivian worked her plan carefully. She befriended Margaret, Marcus's assistant, with expensive gifts and compliments. She convinced Marcus to have weekly dinners, at restaurants in public, where she could be seen as his devoted fiancée. And she started a whisper campaign. Have you noticed how much time Marcus spends with that analyst? She'd mention casually at social events. I'm worried Emma Brooks might have inappropriate feelings for my fiancé, she'd confide to board members' wives. It's sweet, really, how she's developed a crush on Marcus. But it's becoming awkward. The rumors spread like wildfire through Seattle's elite circles and eventually filtered back to TechVista. Emma remained oblivious until her friend in HR pulled her aside. Emma, be careful. There are rumors circulating about you and Mr. Chen. What? That's ridiculous. We're just colleagues. I know that. You know that. But Vivian Winters is very influential, and she's making you look like you're chasing her fiancé. Emma felt her world tilt. Why would she do that? Because you're a threat, Emma. Can't you see it? Marcus treats you differently than anyone else. That's not. We're not. Emma stammered. But even as she protested, part of her knew it was true. She and Marcus had developed something. Not romantic, exactly, but significant. A connection that somehow bypassed his carefully constructed walls. And that made her dangerous to Vivian's plans. The trap was being set. Emma just didn't know it yet. That Thursday, Marcus requested Emma come to his office to discuss a new project. When she arrived, Vivian was already there, standing by the window. Emma. Perfect timing, Marcus said. I was just telling Vivian about the consumer AI project. She had some questions about the data collection methods. Emma felt uneasy but smiled professionally. Of course. What would you like to know? As Emma explained the technical details, Vivian watched her carefully, noting every glance Emma exchanged with Marcus, every moment of comfortable communication. When Emma left, Vivian turned to Marcus with calculated tears. Marcus, I need to tell you something difficult. I think Emma might be stealing company secrets. Marcus stared at Vivian, his expression unreadable. That's a serious accusation. What evidence do you have? Vivian had prepared for this. She pulled out her phone, displaying a series of screenshots. I've been monitoring some tech industry forums. Look at this thread. Someone with the username DataEagle23 is posting detailed information about tech. Vista's upcoming AI project. Information that only someone with internal access would know. Marcus studied the screenshots. His jaw tightened. The posts did contain proprietary information. And you think Emma is responsible because? I had my assistant do some digging. That username? It's linked to an email address that's almost identical to Emma's college email. Plus, look at the timestamp on this post. 2:47 a.m. last Tuesday. According to building security logs I requested from Margaret, Emma was working late that night. She was the only analyst on the executive floor. Marcus's expression remained carefully neutral, but Vivian could see doubt creeping in. This is circumstantial, Marcus said. Is it? Vivian's voice was soft, poisonous. Marcus, I know you trust her. I know you've gotten comfortable with her. But sometimes people aren't who we think they are. My father always said to trust data over feelings. Isn't that what you teach? Marcus was silent for a long moment. I'll look into it. Please do. Before she does more damage. Vivian touched his arm. He pulled away reflexively and left the office with a satisfied smile. Marcus sat at his desk, staring at the screenshots. Everything in him wanted to dismiss Vivian's accusations immediately. Emma had shown nothing but integrity. She'd saved the company during the cyber attack. She'd never been anything but professional and kind. But the data was concerning. And Marcus had learned long ago to trust evidence over instinct. He called Margaret. I need you to pull Emma Brooks's network activity logs for the past month. Quietly. That evening, Emma was working late as usual when her computer suddenly locked. A message appeared. System audit in progress. Please report to security. Her stomach dropped. She'd done nothing wrong, but being summoned to security never meant anything good. In the security office, she found Marcus, Margaret, and the head of IT security, James Chen, no relation to Marcus. Ms. Brooks, please sit, Marcus said. His voice was professional, distant, not the warmer tone he'd developed with her over recent weeks. Emma sat, her heart pounding. What's this about? James pulled up network logs on his screen. We're investigating a potential data breach. Someone has been posting proprietary information about our AI project on industry forums. Okay. Emma was confused. What does that have to do with me? The posts correlate with times you were working late and had access to the executive floor, Marcus said quietly. The username traces back to an email address similar to your college email. Emma felt like she'd been slapped. You think I'm leaking company secrets? I'm not accusing you, Marcus said, but his tone suggested otherwise. I'm investigating the evidence. Then investigate properly. Emma's voice rose. I would never betray this company. I would never betray you. Something flickered in Marcus's eyes, but he remained controlled. The evidence. The evidence is circumstantial at best. Yes, I work late. So do a dozen other people. And anyone could create a username similar to my old email. This is a setup. By whom? Marcus asked. Emma opened her mouth, then closed it. Accusing Vivian without proof would make her look defensive and desperate. I don't know, she finally said. But it wasn't me. I swear on everything I care about. My family, my integrity, my career. I didn't leak anything. Marcus studied her face. Emma met his gaze steadily, letting him see the truth in her eyes. James cleared his throat. Mr. Chin, there's something else. I did a deeper analysis of the forum posts. The writing style uses British spelling, analyze instead of analyze, behavior instead of behavior. Ms. Brooks's emails and reports consistently use American spelling. Marcus's posture shifted slightly. Continue. Also, the posts were made using a VPN routing through Singapore. Ms. Brooks has never logged into our systems from any international IP address. Whoever is posting this information is being very careful to hide their actual identity. So I'm not a suspect? Emma asked. You remain a person of interest, Marcus said carefully, but the evidence is inconclusive. Emma stood, trembling with anger and hurt. I saved this company during the cyber attack. I've given everything to this job. And now you suspect me of sabotage based on circumstantial evidence? Based on someone's accusations? I have to investigate all possibilities, Marcus said. No, Emma shot back. You have to trust the people who've proven themselves trustworthy. But I guess your walls are still too high for that. The barb landed. Marcus flinched slightly. Emma walked to the door, then turned back. I don't know who's setting me up, but when you find out, I hope you remember this moment. I hope you remember that you chose to doubt me. She left before anyone could respond. Marcus sat in silence after she'd gone. Sir, James said carefully, my professional opinion? Ms. Brooks isn't our leak. The evidence against her is too convenient. Almost like someone wanted us to suspect her. Who would do that? Margaret asked. Marcus's eyes narrowed. He pulled out his phone and called Vivian. Darling, did you find the leak? Vivian answered cheerfully. How did you get those forum screenshots? Marcus asked. I told you, my assistant. Your assistant just happened to be monitoring tech forums and noticed posts about our proprietary AI project. A project we've kept under strict NDA. Vivian's pause was telling. I was trying to help. Who told you to look for leaks in the first place? No one. I was just concerned about protecting your interests. Vivian. Marcus's voice was cold. Did you create those posts yourself? Of course not. How could you even suggest? Because the evidence is too perfect. Too convenient. Someone wanted me to suspect Emma specifically. Marcus, I understand you have feelings for that girl, but... I don't have feelings for her, Marcus interrupted. But I do trust her. Something I'm realizing I don't do with you. He hung up before Vivian could respond. The breakthrough came 3 days later when James completed his forensic analysis. Mr. Chin, you need to see this, James said, entering Marcus's office with his laptop. Marcus looked up from his work. He hadn't slept well since the confrontation with Emma. She'd been avoiding him, arriving early, leaving late, taking stairs instead of elevators to avoid crossing his path. The building felt colder without their casual interactions. What did you find? The forum posts were definitely created to frame Ms. Brooks. But the person who made them got sloppy. James pulled up a data trail. The VPN they used. It was paid for with a credit card registered to Winters Media Group. Marcus went very still. Vivian's family company. Yes, sir. And there's more. I pulled visitor logs and found that Ms. Winters accessed your office during lunch last week when you were at the board meeting. Security footage shows her photographing documents on your desk, including the AI project specifications that later appeared in those forum posts. Marcus's hands curled into fists. The betrayal cut deeper than he expected. Not because he loved Vivian, he'd never loved her, but because she'd tried to destroy someone Marcus had come to care about. Someone he trusted. Where is Ms. Brooks now? Marcus asked quietly. I believe she's at her desk, sir. Marcus stood, then paused. James, forward all this evidence to our legal team. I want a full report prepared. And Ms. Winters? I'll handle her personally. Marcus found Emma in her office, staring at her computer screen but clearly not seeing it. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. She looked exhausted and heartbroken. Emma, he said from her doorway. She turned, and the guarded expression on her face felt like a knife to his chest. Mr. Chen. Her voice was professional, cold. May I come in? It's your company. Marcus entered and closed the door. He remained standing as always, but positioned himself where she could easily see his face. "I owe you an apology," he began. Emma's laugh was bitter. "Do you? I should have trusted you immediately. Everything about you, your integrity, your work, your character, should have made it impossible for me to doubt you. But I let old wounds and circumstantial evidence cloud my judgment." "Why are you telling me this now?" Emma asked. "More convenient evidence appear?" "Yes, actually." Marcus pulled out his phone and showed her the forensic report. "Vivian created those forum posts. She was trying to frame you." Emma read the report, her expression shifting from anger to vindication to exhaustion. "Why would she do that?" "Because she saw you as a threat." "A threat to what?" "Her engagement to you." "Marcus, we're just colleagues who—" Emma stopped, then laughed sadly. "We're not even that anymore, are we?" Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. "I'd like us to be. If you'll allow it." "Allow it?" Emma stood, her eyes flashing. "You suspected me of corporate espionage. You questioned my integrity based on nothing but a jealous woman's accusations. And now you want things to go back to normal." "No," Marcus said quietly. "I want to earn back your trust. However long it takes." Emma stared at him. She wanted to stay angry, wanted to hold this grudge, but she saw genuine remorse in his eyes. More than that, she saw fear, the same fear he carried from childhood, the terror of opening up and being hurt again. "Why didn't you believe me from the start?" she asked softly. Marcus's jaw tightened. "Because I've learned that people I trust inevitably hurt me. My stepmother taught me that. Years of isolation reinforced it. When evidence suggested you might be lying, it confirmed every defensive instinct I've developed." "I'm not your stepmother," Emma said. "I'm not Vivian. I'm not anyone who's hurt you." "I know. That's what makes my failure to trust you even worse." They stood in silence, processing the weight of the moment. "What happens now?" Emma finally asked. "Legal is preparing a case against Vivian for corporate espionage and fraud. The engagement is over. And I'm hoping that you'll forgive me." Emma wanted to. She could see how much courage it took for Marcus to be this vulnerable, this honest. But trust, once broken, wasn't easily repaired. "I need time," she said. "I understand." Marcus turned to leave, then stopped. "Emma, thank you for being honest about needing time. A lesser person would have accepted my apology without meaning it. Your integrity, even when I didn't deserve it, is what makes you extraordinary." After he left, Emma sat down heavily. Her anger was fading, replaced by a confusing mix of hurt, understanding, and something she was afraid to name. That evening, Seattle was hit by a massive storm. Rain lashed against buildings. Thunder rolled across the sky. Lightning illuminated the city in brilliant, terrifying flashes. Emma was working late. She'd thrown herself into projects to avoid thinking about Marcus. But as the storm intensified, she found herself worried about him. She remembered how he'd reacted to storms when she'd first noticed, the tension in his shoulders, the tightness around his eyes. Thunder reminded him of that basement, of being locked in darkness and fear. Emma told herself it wasn't her problem. He'd doubted her. He didn't deserve her concern. But her kind heart wouldn't listen. She walked to Marcus's office. Through the glass walls, she could see him standing by the windows, rigid and trembling as lightning split the sky. His hands were clenched at his sides, his breathing visibly rapid. He was having a panic attack. Emma made a choice. She opened the door without knocking. "Marcus," she said gently. He turned, and the look of raw terror on his face broke her heart completely. "I can't. The storm." He gasped. Emma moved closer, slowly, carefully. "Look at me. Focus on my voice. You're safe. You're not in that basement anymore." Marcus's breath came in sharp, painful gasps. His vision tunneled. The thunder sounded like fists pounding on a door, his small fists, years ago, begging to be let out. Marcus. Emma's voice cut through the panic. Can you hear me? He managed a jerky nod. Good. I want you to try something. Can you name 5 things you can see right now? Marcus's training in breathing techniques, therapy, medication. None of it was working. But Emma's calm voice somehow penetrated the fear. Desk, he forced out. Window. Rain. Your sweater. The clock. Good. 4 things you can touch. His hands were shaking violently, but he followed her instructions. Wall. Chair. My watch. My. You're doing great. 3 things you can hear. Thunder, he gasped. Your voice. The rain. 2 things you can smell. Coffee. Your perfume. No shampoo. 1 thing you can taste. Copper. Fear tastes like copper. Emma's heart clenched, but she kept her voice steady. You're here, Marcus. You're safe. The storm can't hurt you. His breathing was slowing fractionally. He closed his eyes. Don't close them, Emma said quickly. Stay with me. Stay in this room, this moment. Marcus's eyes snapped open, locking onto hers. Emma saw a 7-year-old boy looking back at her, terrified, abandoned, waiting for someone to save him. Without thinking, she stepped forward. May I touch you? Marcus's body screamed at him to say no, to retreat, to protect himself. But something in Emma's eyes, the same gentleness that had always made him feel safe, made him whisper, yes. Emma moved slowly, telegraphing every movement. She placed her hand gently on his shoulder. Marcus froze. His entire body went rigid. But instead of panic, he felt warmth, steadiness, safety. You're okay, Emma murmured. I've got you. The dam broke. Marcus's knees buckled, and Emma caught him, guiding them both to the floor. He collapsed against her, trembling violently, and for the first time in 20 years, Marcus Chen let someone hold him through his fear. Emma wrapped her arms around him, one hand rubbing slow circles on his back. It's okay. Let it out. You're safe with me. Marcus didn't cry. Not exactly. But his body shook with silent sobs, releasing decades of locked-away terror. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, Marcus finally found shelter. They stayed like that until the storm passed, Emma holding Marcus allowing himself to be held. The thunder gradually faded. The lightning grew distant. The rain softened to a gentle patter. When Marcus finally pulled back, his eyes were red, his face pale, but something in his expression had changed. The walls had cracked. I'm sorry, he rasped. Don't apologize for being human, Emma said softly. You came even after what I did. After I doubted you. Emma smiled sadly. I tried not to. I was angry, hurt. But then I saw you standing here, and I just couldn't leave you alone in this. Marcus looked at her. Really looked at her. Why? Why are you so kind to someone who didn't deserve it? Because kindness isn't about deserving, Marcus. It's about choosing to see someone's pain and responding with compassion. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Something profound shifted in Marcus's chest. He'd built his entire adult life on walls and distance, convinced that isolation was safety. But here, held by someone who'd every right to walk away, he felt safer than he'd ever felt behind his barriers. I was 7, he heard himself say, when my stepmother locked me in the basement during a storm. She hated me. Hated that my father loved me. She wanted me to disappear. Emma listened without interrupting, without judgment. She would punish me for being a child, for making noise, for asking questions, for existing. That night, I'd spilled juice at dinner. Such a small thing. But she dragged me to the basement, threw me inside, and locked the door. Marcus's voice cracked. I cried for hours. I pounded on that door until my hands bled. I begged her to let me out. But she just left me there. All night. With the storm raging and no light and no one coming to help me. My father came home the next morning and found me. He divorced her immediately. But the damage was done. After that night, I couldn't let anyone touch me. Every hand felt like her hands. Cold, cruel, dangerous. Emma's eyes glistened with tears. That should never have happened to you. No child should ever feel that abandoned. I've spent 20 years building walls to keep that feeling away, Marcus continued. I became successful, powerful, untouchable. But I was still that 7-year-old boy, hiding in the dark. You're not hiding anymore, Emma said gently. Marcus looked at where Emma's hand still rested on his arm. He didn't pull away. You touched me. And I didn't panic. Not right away, Emma pointed out. You were terrified. But I let you anyway. Because I trusted you. He met her eyes. I trust you, Emma. More than I've trusted anyone in 2 decades. Even though I needed time to forgive you. Especially because of that. You were honest about your feelings. You didn't pretend everything was fine. That kind of integrity is rare. They sat on the floor of his office. The storm passed. The night quiet. What happens now? Emma asked, echoing her question from days earlier. But this time, Marcus had a different answer. Now, he said softly, I stop letting fear make my decisions. I stop pushing away the people who genuinely care. And I figure out how to be the person you saw potential in. Someone who can heal, who can trust, who can be more than his trauma. Emma smiled. That sounds like a good plan. Will you help me? Marcus asked. Not as my employee. As my friend. Friend, Emma repeated, then smiled. Yes. I can do that. 6 months passed, a period of steady, patient healing. Marcus continued therapy but added something new, talking to Emma. Not professionally, but as someone who understood that healing wasn't linear, that some days were harder than others, that progress looked different for everyone. He fired Vivian immediately, pursuing legal action that resulted in a settlement and public admission of her fraud. The tech press had a field day, but Marcus didn't care about the attention. He cared about the truth. Emma remained at TechVista, but their relationship evolved beyond colleague or friend. They had lunch together weekly, always with respectful distance, never pushing boundaries, but growing closer nonetheless. Marcus learned to tolerate small touches. A handshake during meetings. A brief pat on the shoulder. Always with warning, always with consent, but progress nonetheless. Emma learned about Marcus's childhood in greater detail, not all at once, but in small stories shared during late-night work sessions. She told him about her family, her struggles, her dreams. They built something neither had expected, genuine understanding. The Seattle office noticed the change. Marcus smiled more. He seemed less isolated. He even attended a company party, staying only 30 minutes, but attending nonetheless. Mr. Chen seems happier, Emma's friend from HR mentioned. Less haunted. Emma smiled. He's healing. That's all. But it was more than that, and Emma knew it. Somewhere along the way, her respect for Marcus had deepened into something else. She admired his intelligence, appreciated his integrity, and felt drawn to the gentle person hiding beneath layers of protective armor. She never said anything. Marcus had enough pressure in his life. He needed a friend, not romantic complications. Marcus, meanwhile, was having his own realization. In therapy one afternoon, his doctor asked a pointed question. You talk about Emma frequently. How does that feel? What do you mean? Marcus asked. You light up when you mention her. Your body language relaxes. You smile without realizing it. So I'm asking, how does that feel? Marcus considered. Safe. Comfortable. Like I can finally breathe. And does that frighten you? Terrify me. Marcus admitted. Because caring about someone means vulnerability. And vulnerability means potential pain. It also means potential joy, his therapist pointed out. You've spent 20 years avoiding pain. Has that made you happy? The question haunted Marcus for days. He watched Emma during meetings, the way she listened intently, contributed thoughtfully, treated everyone with genuine kindness. He noticed small things, how she brought coffee to colleagues having rough days, how she patiently explained complex concepts without condescension, how her eyes crinkled when she laughed. She was extraordinary. And Marcus was in love with her. The realization didn't come with panic, not like he'd expected. Instead, it felt like coming home after a long journey. It felt right. But telling her, that was terrifying. The opportunity came during a late Friday evening. Most employees had left for the weekend. Emma was finishing a report in her office when Marcus appeared in her doorway. "Do you have a moment?" he asked. Emma looked up, smiling. "Always." "What's up?" Marcus entered, closing the door behind him. He looked nervous, a rarity for him. "I need to tell you something, and I need you to let me finish before you respond. Can you do that?" Emma's smile faded, replaced with concern. "Of course." Marcus took a breath. 6 months ago, you walked into my office during a storm and held me while I fell apart. You had every reason to walk away. I doubted you, hurt you, failed to trust you. But you stayed. And that moment changed everything. Emma opened her mouth, but Marcus held up a hand. "Please, let me finish. For 20 years, I've lived behind walls. I convinced myself that isolation equaled safety. But you showed me something different. You showed me that real safety comes from trusting people who've proven themselves trustworthy. From being vulnerable with someone who treats that vulnerability with care." Marcus stepped closer, not quite within touching distance, but closer than he would have dared a year ago. "Emma, you've become the most important person in my life. Your presence calms storms I didn't know I was still fighting. Your kindness reminds me that goodness exists in the world. Your integrity makes me want to be a better man." Emma's eyes widened. "I'm in love with you," Marcus said simply. "I don't know how to do this properly. I've never been in love before. But I know what I feel, and I needed you to know. You don't have to respond. You don't have to feel the same way. I just needed to be honest." The silence stretched between them. Then Emma stood and walked toward him. Marcus tensed reflexively, but she stopped just outside his comfort zone. "May I touch you?" she asked softly. "Yes." Emma took his hands in hers, the first time they'd held hands intentionally, purposefully. Marcus's breath caught, but no panic came. Only warmth. "Marcus Chen," Emma said, her eyes glistening. "I fell in love with you months ago. But I was afraid to say anything because I didn't want to pressure you or complicate your healing." "You love me," Marcus whispered. "I do. I love your brilliant mind, your quiet strength, your determination to heal despite how hard it is. I love how you treat people with respect. I love how you fought to become more than your trauma." Marcus squeezed her hands gently. "I don't know how to do this. A relationship. Being someone's partner," Emma supplied. "And neither do I, honestly. I've never been in love before either. But we can figure it out together. Slowly, patiently, with the same care we've shown each other all along." Marcus smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. "Together sounds perfect." Emma stepped closer, and for the first time in 20 years, Marcus pulled someone into an embrace. Not a panic-driven collapse, but a genuine, willing hug. They stood there, holding each other, two people who'd been broken by their pasts but were choosing healing in the present. "Thank you," Marcus whispered against her hair. "For what?" "For seeing me. The real me, beneath all the walls and fear. And for staying anyway." Emma pulled back just enough to see his face. "Thank you for letting me in. That took more courage than you know." Outside, Seattle glittered in the evening light. Inside Marcus Chen's office, two people who'd found each other against all odds stood together, facing a future neither had thought possible. Marcus's journey wasn't over. Healing never really is. There would be hard days ahead, moments when old fears resurfaced, times when progress felt impossible. But he wouldn't face them alone anymore. He had Emma. And that made all the difference. Marcus and Emma's story teaches us that healing is possible, that trust can be rebuilt, and that sometimes the greatest courage is allowing yourself to be vulnerable with someone worthy of that gift. Trauma doesn't define us. Our choices in the face of that trauma do. And choosing to open our hearts despite past pain? That's the bravest choice of all. Thank you so much for joining us on Marcus and Emma's journey. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales of love, healing, and second chances. Drop a comment telling us your favorite moment from the story. We read every single one. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss our next upload. Until next time, remember, your past doesn't determine your future. Healing is always possible. And love, when it's real, is worth the risk. Red Heart.